This is what kills communication. This is what kills communication. I think communication is very important, especially here online. But a lot of times in relationships, and relationships don't have to be love, it can be with family. We don't communicate well. So ran across this. I actually got the rest of the videos from this brother as well. We're going to discuss this is what kills communication, and here's the context for it.
Couple session, she was talking about some of the things that she would like him to improve on. She's very good at noticing when his energy shifts and she investigates. She wanted him to be able to notice that within her. Before he was able to acknowledge the request, he went into explaining himself that he does recognize him and why he doesn't say anything. And he doesn't want to ruffle her feathers. Noble cause for why he's not saying anything.
I'm going to start it over from the beginning because I know sometimes it just throws everybody off for a loop. So, y'all ready? What he's talking about is the interaction between a man and a woman and how things play out. We often find ourselves when we having these conversations, and there's a lot of things that's happening, even though we don't realize it's happening. So pay close attention. This is the video for the chat, the viewers, the panel. Let's go.
Couple session, she was talking about some of the things that she would like him to improve on. She's very good at noticing when his energy shifts and she investigates. She wanted him to be able to notice that within her. Before he was able to acknowledge the request, he went into explaining himself that he does recognize him and why he doesn't say anything. And he doesn't want to ruffle her feathers. Noble cause for why he's not saying anything.
Right.
When you in that masculine approach, all or nothing, right or wrong, and you have a request presented to you that triggers a part of yourself, well, yeah, maybe I did that, but this is why. He started to explain himself through and past the request. Yes, we understand why you're presenting this information, but in this moment, all there is a request from your wife. When he asks you how you feeling, you may black on him. Do you want him to be able to take that risk? He's like, yes. His perspective was not wrong. It was a different approach, but he got to the point to be able to say, I understand that request. I can honor that. Whatever he had to say about why he wasn't doing that yet, in that moment, it wasn't yet necessary. So a lot of times when you develop this skill set, you'll be able to hear your partner a lot better. It correlated to when Candace let me know how she wants her apologies. It may be a lot of other nuances involved that you would like to express. But in the moment when you say sorry, let me just allow myself to receive that. Give that apology space and time to like really bloom into my system. So if 2 days later, you do want to revisit those nuances, you do want to express that, now I got this buffer of the fact that you really let my apology breathe.
Let's go ahead and dive into it. This is what kills communication. This is what kills communication. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start off with you, Marcus. What did you think about that, brother?
Um, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. A lot of times, it sounded like what was occurring was he was defensive before he had a chance to fully uh get to the root of what she was trying to communicate with him effectively. And I think people do that a lot, right? Because nobody wants to be the bad guy or feel misheard or misrepresented or misunderstood. So a lot of times, as a defense mechanism, when somebody will bring something to you, you try and you try and explain before they get through the full complaint because you want to relieve yourself of the guilt or of the burden of being the one responsible for hurting them. And in other instances, you might be trying to fix it in real time and let them know this is what was preventing it. But it makes perfect sense. You have to create a space, and everything can be done at the same time. Sometimes you gotta let it breathe.
All right. I'm gonna go to you, Sarah. What are your thoughts about it? This is what kills communication.
I guess I hear an echo on my end. Do you guys hear it?
It's just it's not bad. It's not bad. You
Okay.
better get through it. If you want to troubleshoot it, you can. I can come back to you.
Okay. Well, I would say communication is extremely important in a relationship, but what I've noticed a lot of times, and women won't like this, but we're selfish. We want men to kind of guess what we're going through or what's happening in our minds. And it's not just a women thing. I've seen some men, doing this, but it's most commonly on women. And I think it's learning how to express ourselves, like, and also don't just let it out because you're emotional or angry. Like, think about the things. try empathy, be empathetic and think like, hey, if I was on the other person, that's something that, works for me when I want to say, like, I don't immediately say something. It's not just with my partner, my husband, but also with my sisters, with my family, with my brothers, with my daughter, like with anyone that you want to have good communication with. Because if you don't want to misunderstood, then think about your words, because it's part of the communication. So it's just people not communicating nowadays. That's the way I see it.
Go ahead, Paradise. Your thoughts about it, man. This is what kills communication.
Marcus was absolutely right. In the course of the video, I don't think people were actually grasping that it wasn't the woman who needed to be accountable for her actions, but because we're so engraved to think that it's women who are the problem, we didn't hear him say she investigates the issue. We didn't hear him say that she actually, takes the time to listen to him. It was him who was already on the defense. It was him who was already feeling the need to shut down before she even said anything. So in that particular video, he was basically saying, like, she's there, she's present, she's listening, she's taking the time to watch his behaviors and his mannerisms, and she's trying to address that particular issue. But it sounds as if that whomever that gentleman was, that even in therapy, he went to explaining not only to just let himself off the hook, but he knew what his issues was, and he chose to feel like that should have been a good enough excuse for her to also understand why he's giving her the response that he's given. When she's saying, you already know that this is the issue with you, acknowledge it and correct it. But instead of him doing that, the response was, well, I'm this way because, and it's like, I understand why you are that way, but that doesn't give you permission to be that way continuously once you have acknowledged. You have to learn to work and grow towards and try to change it, right? And so, in regards to communication, to be honest, everybody has never communicated effectively. Not women, not men. Things just happen to work because life get hard, right? And so we find our way on an even plateau. However, everybody knows how to communicate. People don't know how to meet others where they learn to communicate. And in this particular conversation, that's what was happening. He was refusing to meet her where he knows how to communicate with her. He was more so making it harder because he wanted her to meet him where he was communicating, but his communication style wasn't progressive to their relationship.
I got a question, Paradise. So I understand the meeting part, right? Who meets who? If somebody comes to you and says something, should you? Because what it sounds like is when you communicate, you have to sacrifice. Somebody has to sacrifice. If not, both people have to sacrifice. Um, Doing the back and forth, right? So if somebody brings something to you, like, what if they're wrong about how they analyze the situation or about whatever the problem is? Like, what if it is wrong, or what if it's not the way that it seems? And she may come and say, hey, why did you do this? You did this because of that. And he's trying to explain himself. Should he just wait? How should that go?
You talk about what Sarah just said, where women make stuff up in their mind. It happens all the time, right? Where she's like, I seen him doing this, and I feel like he's doing this because of X, Y, and Z reason, but he hasn't said anything. And in those situations, I personally think that in the event that that person is assessing you wrong, in this particular scenario, JR, what you're saying is it's a woman assessing a man wrong. If that woman is assessing the man wrong, it takes to me, what should be happening is it takes, if he wants the relationship to work, he should sit down and make her see him. And what I mean by that is like an actual sit down, no distraction, and tell her, you feel this way, but I'm telling you, this is what this is. I understand what you're feeling, but your feelings are invalid for the situation. Although I understand what you feel, that does not represent who I am. And I think a lot of times with women, if the feelings merge into the action, then that for her solidifies it. But he hasn't said anything. So you can't say you're such a great communicator, but you're denouncing every time he attempts to communicate with you. at that point, it takes two people to communicate. You're not doing much justice at all. So yes, at that point, a woman should be compromising, and I do think he should work at it. Like, you just can't quit or get frustrated. If that's the case, then you won't have no relationship at all, and you should leave that woman alone. You can't stop if you want to be with her.